Hello, my name is Eric, and today I wanted to discuss a few prehistoric animals that science and pop culture really missed the mark on in one way or another the first time around. The study of dinosaurs has been going on for the last 184 years. Paleontology is an ever evolving field, and new discoveries are still happening weekly, even daily. Our understanding of extinct animals and their ecosystem is constantly evolving. So I made this collection of animals that, upon our initial discovery, we had a totally different idea of what they were and how they operated. And through time and research, we have learned a whole lot more. So here is a list of 7 such cases. The iguanodon has gone through quite a transformation since its original discovery. It was one of the first dinosaurs ever discovered and named, marking a turning point for paleontology. Its story begins in 1822 in Sussex, England, when Mary Ann Mantell noticed a collection of large fossilized teeth embedded in rock while walking. Her husband, Dr. Gideon Algernon Mantell, an amateur geologist and country doctor, recognized their scientific importance and began studying. For context, at that time, the word dinosaur did not yet exist, and no giant herbivorous reptiles had ever been documented. Initially, Mantell only had teeth and a few bones, leading him to misinterpret the remains as belonging to a giant reptile, possibly a crocodile. His early attempts at reconstruction were limited by the incomplete fossil record, and he famously placed a large horn on the nose, which was later understood to be a thumb spike. Mantell examined living reptile teeth, including the iguana skeleton at the Hunterian Museum, and found striking similarities. This led to the identification of Iguanodon as a new genus. Mantell proposed the name Iguanodon from iguana and the Greek odon, meaning tooth. He sent the fossils to French scientist Georges Cuvier, considered the father of paleontology, who initially thought that they might be from a fish, but later suggested that they could belong to a new herbivorous reptile. The Mantell's discovery was one of the earliest to be properly studied and recognized as something entirely new, helping to kickstart the field of dinosaur paleontology. Artist John Martin created one of the first vivid restorations in his painting, The Country of the Iguanodon, depicting the dinosaur in a lush prehistoric landscape alongside predators and other reptiles, giving the public a dramatic, though not very accurate, vision of the creature. The iguanodon's fame grew further in 1854 when life-size concrete models were built for the Crystal Palace Park in London. Iguanodon was one of the stars of these sculptures, which brought dinosaurs into public consciousness for the first time. The models, though inaccurate to modern standards, made the concept of giant reptiles tangible to Victorian audiences. Significant advances came after the discovery of more complete iguanodon remains in Belgium in 1878. Louis Doyo studied these fossils and reconstructed iguanodon in a bipedal kangaroo-like posture, with shorter front limbs and a bent tail, reflecting the scientific understanding of the time. This reconstruction became iconic, influencing museum displays and public perception for decades. Later research revealed the iguanodon was likely quadrupedal, with specialized feet, a flexible fifth finger for grasping, and a thumb spike used for defense. Modern reconstructions depict iguanodon with a horizontal tail, robust body, and accurate limb proportions, reflecting a more precise understanding of its locomotion and anatomy. Today, iguanodon's discovery remains a landmark in the history of science, symbolizing the moment when the existence of dinosaurs became undeniable. Megalosaurus was the first dinosaur to be scientifically described, with its discovery dating back to the 17th century in Oxfordshire, England. The earliest remains of Megalosaurus were discovered in the 1600s. Workers uncovered unusual fossil fragments, including a large femur, vertebrae, and a section of jawbone, which puzzled early naturalists. In 1676, Robert Plot documented one of these fossils, naming it Scrotum humanum, due to its resemblance to the human anatomy, though he initially speculated it might belong to an elephant or a giant human. Over the following decades, additional bones were found, but their true nature remained unclear. In 1818, William Buckland, a professor at the University of Oxford, began a detailed study of the fossils. Buckland concluded that the remains belonged to a large extinct reptile. In 1824, Buckland formally named the genus Megalosaurus, meaning great lizard, making it the first dinosaur to receive a scientific name, long before the term dinosaur was coined in 1842 by Richard Owen. The type species Megalosaurus bucklandi was named in 1827 by Gideon Mantell in honor of Buckland. Early naturalists imagined Megalosaurus as a gigantic quadrupedal lizard, possibly up to 20 meters long. Later, Richard Owens revised its estimate length to about 9 meters, and modern studies suggest it was closer to 6 meters long, bipedal, and weighed around 700 kilograms, or about 1,500 pounds. The lack of complete skeleton meant that the early reconstructions were speculative, and many unrelated fossils were initially assigned to the Megalosaurus, inflating the number of supposed species. Megalosaurus played a pivotal role in paleontology. It was one of the 3 genres, alongside Iguanodon and Haliosaurus, used by Richard Owens to define the group Dinosauria in 1842. Its discovery marked the beginning of the scientific recognition of dinosaurs and sparked public interest, exemplified by its inclusion in the Crystal Palace dinosaurs models. We now know Megalosaurus was a bipedal predator. It had a large head with serrated dagger-like teeth, powerful hind limbs, short arms with clawed hands, and a stiff tail, indicating a predatory lifestyle. Fossil evidence suggests that it could reach speeds of up to 32 kilometers or 19.88 miles per hour, and likely hunted smaller herbivorous dinosaurs, though it may have scavenged occasionally. Despite not being the largest or most famous dinosaur, Megalosaurus remains historically important, as it is the first dinosaur formally described and studied in scientific history. Sometimes paleontologists just don't have enough material excavated to gain a real insight on a specimen, leaving them with frustratingly unanswered questions with no indication of any answer coming anytime soon. The next dinosaur on the list was one such specimen. The first known remains of Deinocheirus were unearthed during a Polish-Mongolian paleontological expedition on July 9, 1965. The fossil consisted primarily of 2 massive forelimbs, shoulder girdles, and some other miscellaneous bones, but most of the skeleton had eroded away. The arms measured over 7.9 feet long, making them among the largest of any bipedal dinosaur. Their size and unusual structure immediately captured scientific attention, but without additional skeletal material, the dinosaur's full appearance and lifestyle remained mysterious for decades. The remains were formally described in 1970. The species was named Deinocheirus, from the Greek word dinos, meaning horrible, and chair, meaning hands, in reference to its enormous claws. At the time, the limited fossil evidence led to widespread speculation about its classification, with some scientists hypothesizing it was a giant predator, while others suggested it might have been herbivorous or aquatic. For nearly 50 years, no additional remains were unearthed, leaving Deinocheirus as one of paleontology's most enigmatic dinosaurs. This all changed between 2006 and 2009, when not one but 2 far more complete specimens were discovered. Described in 2014, it was revealed that Deinocheirus was a massive 11-meter-long ornithomimosaur with a hump-like structure on its back, a duck-like bill, and a fan of feathers on its tail, clarifying its unusual anatomy and omnivorous diet. The discovery of Deinocheirus highlights the challenges of paleontology when only partial remains are available. Its initial discovery of just its forelimbs sparked decades of speculation, and the latter finds transformed it from a mysterious, terrible hand into a well-understood, bizarrely shaped dinosaur, illustrating the diversity of the Cretaceous theropods. The first Therizinosaurus fossils were discovered in 1948 during a joint Soviet-Mongolian paleontological expedition in the Gobi Desert. The initial find consisted of several gigantic claws. Because they were so massive and unusual, Soviet paleontologist Evgeny Malov initially mistook them for the remains of a giant ancient sea turtle when he officially named and described the creature in 1954. It was named Therizinosaurus, or the turtle-formed scythe lizard. It wasn't until the 1970s and 80s, when more complete forelimbs, hind limbs, and related species were found in China and Mongolia, that paleontologists determined Therizinosaurus was a highly specialized bipedal theropod dinosaur that lived about 70 million years ago during the late Cretaceous in what is now Mongolia. Because only partial forelimbs, claws, and legs of Therizinosaurus have been discovered, paleontologists base its complete skeletal reconstruction on well-preserved smaller relatives like Erlikosaurus and Nothronicus. Despite being a theropod, a group typically made up of carnivores, it was a large, feathered herbivore. Therizinosaurus is reconstructed as a massive, pot-bellied theropod with a long neck, a small beaked head, a short tail, and heavy plumed feathers. It measured roughly 30 to 33 feet long and weighed about 5 tons, making it the largest known member of its group. Recently, Therizinosaurus made its cinematic debut in the 2022 film Jurassic World Dominion and quickly became a fan favorite. I think I'd be interested in taking a second look at this one in 50 to 60 years from now. I bet there's still a lot left to uncover about the Therizinosaurus. Stegosaurus almost needs no introduction, but I'll do a brief one anyway just in case. Stegosaurus is a genus of herbivorous four-legged armored dinosaur from the late Jurassic, living between 155 and 145 million years ago. The genus name, Stegosaurus, comes from the Greek word stegos, meaning roof, and sauros, meaning lizard, literally meaning roof lizard, characterized by the distinctive kite-shaped upright plates along its back. This is based off early fossil interpretations by Othniel Charles Marsh, who thought the bony plates ran flat over the back like roof tiles. Even the Stegosaurus reconstructions had a rough go in the beginning, but paleontologists have done solid work figuring the ins and outs of this animal over the last almost 150 years. However, for Stegosaurus, there's more to a dinosaur than just its looks. I tend to like my dinosaurs for their personality and brain. And when applicable, their second brain. Yes, you heard me right. It was originally believed Stegosaurus had a second brain. The idea of a second brain is a long-standing paleontological misconception. In the 1880s, paleontologist Othniel Charles Marsh noticed a large enlargement in the neural canal of the Stegosaurus vertebrae near the hips. This was bigger than the brain cavity itself, leading him to call it the posterior brain case. Early scientists speculated it might have been a secondary nervous center to help coordinate the massive hind legs and spiked tail. Modern CT scans and endocast studies show the sacral enlargement was not a brain, but likely a glycogen body or a region with dense nerve bundles. A true brain requires specialized neural tissues concentrated in the skull, which is absent in the hip. The enlargement may have helped with motor coordination for the leg and tail movement, but it did not process complex thought. While the dinosaur's brain was indeed extremely small, about the size of a walnut or lime, weighing roughly 70 to 80 grams for an animal that got up to about 9 meters long and weighed 5 metric tons, it did not have a second brain. Its survival relied on its size, armor, and tail spikes, not on advanced cognition. The small brain was adequate for basic survival needs, and the hip enlargement was just a normal anatomical feature for supporting its massive hindquarters.
This next reconstruction is not the fault of paleontologists, but rather New World creationist Christians, and I'm only including it here because I find it kind of humorous. Parasaurolophus was a large herbivorous hadrosaurid dinosaur that lived in western North America and possibly Asia during the late Cretaceous, about 76.5 to 73 million years ago. It is one of the rarer hadrosaurs, known from only a few well-preserved specimens. Parasaurolophus is notable for its unique head crest. The crest's internal structure suggests it was a sophisticated sound-producing organ, making Parasaurolophus a key example of dinosaurian vocal communication. Gish's parasaur, also known as the fire-breathing Parasaurolophus or Parasaurolophus infernus, is a fictional species of hadrosaur originating from the books Dinosaurs by Design, as well as making an appearance in Fire-Breathing Dinosaurs and other media. The proposal, which is not an actual scientific theory, was/is that Parasaurolophus would breathe fire by forcibly and explosively expelling gas through an exothermic reaction using organic chemicals they produced in their head somehow. There is no scientific evidence to suggest that this was possible. Gish's parasaur is named after creationist paleontologist Dr. Duane Tolbert Gish, who was the first to propose it as a fire breather. This imagining is an effort to relate dinosaurs to depictions of medieval dragons, attempting to provide evidence human and dinosaurs once coexisted in an attempt to prove that the Earth is only around 7,000 years old. The actual evidence suggests that Parasaurolophus' skull crest was a large, hollow, bony structure formed by elongated nasal passages that ran from the nostrils up into the crest, looping back on themselves, and then connecting to the airway. Its primary function is now widely supported by biomechanical modeling as an acoustic resonating chamber for producing low-frequency calls and not expelling fire breath. Just for fun, here's what most paleontologists agree Parasaurolophus would have most likely sounded like. Just kidding. It was actually a little bit more like this. The last remains on the list I want to discuss do not belong to a dinosaur, but I found it interesting anyway. The Magdeburg unicorn, or also called the Gurich einhorn, is one of history's most famous examples of fossil misinterpretation. In 1663, workers in a gypsum quarry near Magdeburg unearthed a collection of fossilized bones from the Harz region, now known as Unicorn Cave. The bones were scattered and incomplete, but their arrangement, a long straight horn, a hulking spine, and long legs, suggested something extraordinary. Many believe they were the remains of a legendary unicorn. Otto von Goering inspected the bones and around 5 years later assembled them into a display skeleton. His reconstruction was based on both scientific observation and the prevailing cultural belief in unicorns. The resulting upright figure resembled a horse with a single horn, and it was displayed to awestruck crowds. Not much is known from this reconstruction, except for the description of the bones from a book by Gurik that was published after his death. He wrote, "This skeleton was broken and taken out in pieces due to the ignorance and carelessness of the excavators. But the horn, along with the head and some ribs, as well as the spine and some bones, were brought into the local abyss. This roused the imagination of many, and some tried to draw what such a skeleton would look like. The drawing that prevailed was an 18th century version of an artist's impression based on an earlier drawing by Elke Gorning. We will never know if this is truly how Gurik had reconstructed the bones, but the image has stuck since then. The original 3D model, if it ever existed, was lost, and the display we see today is a plastic reconstruction fabricated in the 1990s. The bones were not from a single creature, but rather from an amalgamation of a woolly rhino skull, mammoth legs, and the horns of a narwhal. The bones were dug from different parts of a cave in gravels and assembled to fit the unicorn image. This reflects how cultural expectations could shape scientific interpretations. Recent excavations of the Unicorn Cave have revealed it is a rich Paleolithic site with Neanderthal-made tools, bones, artifacts, and evidence of ancient megafauna. Today, the Magdeburg unicorn is seen not as a unicorn, but as a fascinating case study in how early science, shaped by legend, could misread the fossil record. The Magdeburg unicorn remains a viral internet meme and a reminder that even in the 17th century, when science was still developing, belief could twist bone into fantasy. It's a story of discovery, misinterpretation, and the enduring human fascination with mythical beasts. Throughout time, Mother Nature has added and subtracted some unicorn-like creatures from the roster, but unfortunately it seems that the Magdeburg unicorn was not one amongst them. So, there you have it. 7 examples that prove why it's important to never stop asking questions and looking for answers. If you have any other dinosaurs or prehistoric creatures that fit this topic that you'd like me to cover in another video, please let me know down in the comments. My next video is going to take the opposite approach to this one, and we're going to go over some extinct animals that we have a very, very clear, deep scientific understanding of. I'm very excited for this one. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to make your ancestors proud.